Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Legacy Builders series. I am your host, Ace Randle. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. This is our part 2 of our mid-season recap. And the last one was amazing. We kind of went over some different clips of some of our guests that came on during the beginning half of season 1. And just taking little clips and kind of explaining a little bit more in detail about what some of these guests were saying, and just kind of giving you some wisdom nuggets to kind of note down. So as you guys are coming on, once you get your pens and papers handy, I think these clips that I'm going to show to you tonight is really going to inspire you, give you some wisdom to apply to yourself, and to help you in your legacy building. So before we get started, I kind of want to come on for a quick second. Last time I didn't give an inspirational thought, but this time I do want to get an inspirational thought because this kind of ties into a lot of the clips that I'm going to share tonight. I had an interesting situation while I'm pursuing purpose, while I'm going after my dreams and my goals. I actually got an opportunity to possibly do some work for a movie production company. And they make a lot of pretty known films or what have you, some in America, some in Asia as well. And I know of quite a few of the films that they have that I actually have seen many times and things of that sort. And so we're in negotiations or what have you about me freelancing some work for them. And so we start the process or what have you. They, I told them what was required. They began to send funds and what have you as deposits so that we can kind of get the ball rolling, so I can make preparations to getting myself to California to do this work. And so as I'm preparing in the beginning, everything seems great. Everything seems wonderful or what have you. Everything is coming together or what have you. I'm planning, I'm getting, mentally prepared or what have you to ready myself. And so, as things were getting closer to the preparation phase, something just was picking at me a little bit. And I was just like, let me start asking more questions. And so I asked questions and I started to, ask, questions just to do my due diligence and to prepare before I started down this wormhole or this rabbit hole into this particular journey. And so the more questions I ask, the more I'm getting concerned. And so I'm like, okay. And so I end up receiving this in the mail or what have you. And I'm going to zoom it in so you can see, you see my name on it and everything. And so, I said, because God is never going to leave me ignorant of Satan's devices. And because I'm a researcher, I'm a planner, And I decided to, call PNC Bank, just to do funds verification, because I actually used to, do work in a banking industry to a certain extent growing up over the years, different jobs or what have you. And so, did verifications or what have you. And I talked to the bank manager, and I said, I just want to make sure that that funds are available, because I typically do not deal with checks at all in business. At all. I've had enough times that I've been burned or what have you, that I decided years ago that I do not take personal or even business checks at all. And so did that, and come to find out, this $3,500 check, $3,500 check is counterfeit. Now, here's the thing, and this is the thing that I thank God about, that God is never going to leave me ignorant. He's never going to leave me ignorant, because we can get so caught up in the moment of what's going on and the excitement, like, oh my God, I got this opportunity, and this is only a deposit in order to accomplish what they want me to do in a 2-week span. And so I was excited, like, okay, and so, but something was always picking at me, like, do your due diligence. Don't just jump in, because we can get so excited about an opportunity that's in front of us that we are so blinded by the lights that we don't see the snare. We don't see the trap. We don't see what is in front of us to lure us into a destructive place. And so I did my due diligence and found out that it was actually not a valid check. It was actually counterfeit. And I said, well, it's a cashier's check, and it's in fact not a valid check. Now, if you want to take it on your own and take a screenshot and try to cash it yourself, God bless your whole life. And but if you end up going to jail, that's on you. But I use this as an example, because this is a part of some of the clips that I'm going to be bringing in tonight about some of the guests or what have you. Sometimes you can be going after your dreams and your goals and what it is that you're trying to do in life, and a snare comes to try to stop your momentum and stop your progress. Find yourself locked up, your name is tarnished, find out that your bank account is tarnished, find out that your business collapsed because you didn't do your due diligence, you didn't prepare, you didn't keep the ability to discern, but also having discerning of spirits, so that you can prepare yourself, so you can make sure that you're not making wrong decisions. Wise decisions is really important in legacy building. So I just want to come on and just share this story, because this is very recent. When I say this is very recent, this is in the last 3 days that this has manifested, but this has been in negotiations for the last week and a half. And so I wanted to share this to get you to understand that just because you're going after legacy building, and just because you're trying to pursue after your purpose, destiny, and dreams, does not mean that there's not going to be a snare, that there's not going to be a trap, that you're not going to be deceived. And I want you to be aware of that, so that you are not deceived in your process of building legacy. So as we go on into a recap of our mid-season, thank you guys for coming on and watching. Those of you who are watching on Facebook, begin to share with your followers. Those of you on YouTube as well, thank you guys for sharing and watching and just enduring this journey of the series with Legacy Builder series. And so I had some amazing guests that I want to bring on and show clips of their show. This particular guest, his name is excuse me, Emil Sutton, and he is an author of E.A. Sutton Group. He's also the author of My Pain, Your Gain. He is a former pastor. Eventually, he probably will go back into pastoring again, but he is a former pastor. And he wrote this book because he was pursuing so much after purpose and this ministry, that his family collapsed, and he lost his family. He lost his his ministry, and they you know, his process, you know, having to start all over again. And his My Pain Your Gain is a book that talks about his story, so that you learn how to not fall into those same snares and those same traps. So let's listen to a particular clip that he talks about how he was going after pursuing his purpose. And he as he was pursuing his purpose, how he began to lose things. So stay tuned as we take a look at his first clip.
At an early age, I realized I was hard-headed, and most people are hard-headed. Um, it means that the bottom has to fall out, and God has to do something so drastic to get my attention. So what happened
Yes.
is he realized that I had some things embedded deep inside of me, and the scripture talks about the weights, laying aside every weight and those sins. So it's not necessarily the sins, but it was the weights that was holding me down because I had unforgiveness.
Right.
I had unforgiveness in my father. I hated him, you know, and God is like, I can't really use you because you're stuck on unforgiveness, because
Wow.
you keep bumping your head on the ceiling, and then you acting like the little gods of the people. Like whenever things happen, people run to you and you feel as though you have to solve the problem. And then on top of that, you have a marriage where it's that I just want to be a provider. I'm a provider for my family. I'm a great provider. God is saying, boy, and like you said, he's a jealous God. So where do I fit in? So God says,
Yes.
okay, you're married for 23 years. I'm gonna allow that to go astray because even though I was providing for my wife and my children, I didn't
Yeah.
understand them, couldn't listen to them because I didn't know the language. Because she was
Right.
suffering with some stuff. She was suffering with her identity and being the woman of God. She was suffering with some stuff. I never knew that her parents divorced after 23 years. So it was something that she was going through behind closed doors,
Wow.
and dealing with a man of vision, a man of God like myself that was dealing with his own struggles, that she just could not find a way out of it. So what she did what she knew, but I couldn't bring myself to believe or resolve that I allowed that to happen because I thought I was there to protect her, but I couldn't really get her because I was hurt. So I couldn't listen to her. So when she wound up leaving, she left me mentally in her head first. Then she left me
Mm.
physically, didn't come to the church no more. And for 2 years, people were like, where's Pastor Stacy? Where's the first lady? And it's like, and then she left the house. And that's when
Wow.
I couldn't take it no more mentally. I couldn't take it psychologically. I didn't want to hurt her or divorce, or I mean, do something drastic to myself. So I wound up giving her the divorce because I realized we were so broken together that God had to separate us in order to fix us. So that's what happened in the
Wow.
marriage. But ministry, God had to break it up. God says enough is enough because you have become their God and I'm jealous. So I gave you 15 years to deal with that and I tore it down. He tore it down, still left me with dignity and my grace. I thank God by grace. And so what happens is in my bitterness and my anger and frustration, I said to God, it's not fair. But then again, once I understand why you took me through it, and he said, it's simple because there is an underlined thing that goes on in the ministry, especially the Black church. The Christians, we have the highest divorce rates. We have the highest rates of remarriage and broken relationships in anybody, but yet and still we have the power. We have the power.
Right.
And God says the pastors and the preachers are not talking about it because they feel as though it's embarrassing. It's a bad thing. But God says, I'm going to
Yeah.
take you through it. I'm going to take you through a stand because I know once you understand the pain, you're going to articulate it. You're going to help other people. And so to stop
Exactly.
the bleeding, to stop if the legacy, to stop that legacy of bad marriages and relationships, to stop that from trickling down to subsequent generations, God says, no, you're going to speak about it and you're going to help somebody else. That's where the book came, My Pain, Your Gain. So I went through a lot, man. I almost gave up everything in my being. I didn't want to
Wow.
live. I didn't want to do none of that because I thought that I was the perfect example, the epitome of being what God's called a man of God, and she was a woman of God. And like I said, we didn't do anything outside of marriage. It's just that we were broken on the inside and we didn't know how to fix it. So
Right.
God says he allowed that to happen. That's what Jesus told the disciples. They said, why did Moses allow people to divorce? He says, because of the hardness of your hearts. My heart had got hard. Her heart got hard. And God says, okay, it's time for y'all because neither one of you are listening to me.
Wow. I mean, it's so much to dissect in that segment there. I mean, he was talking about how hard-headed he was. And sometimes my mother used to give me this saying, a hard head makes a soft, you know what. So, sometimes in your stubbornness and your hard-headedness, you'll find yourself in situations and and not really paying attention. And so he goes ahead and into marriage and goes into ministry. And sometimes we think that marriage or purpose will heal areas of our lives or bring wholeness to an area that we're missing, a gap or something in our life. And sometimes all that does, actually what it does is only open that space up more. It only opens it up more because it was not properly dealt with or properly healed. And so he's going in, being a leader, becoming like a god to people. And so excuse me, as a prophet myself and being in ministry, I understand the dynamic of that when you are when people pull on you and pull on you and pull on you to lead them, then you start to take place of God in their life and take place of where they should be leaning more towards him than you. And so he got so caught up into the pursuing the purpose or the ministry that everything around him started to collapse. His wife started, his relationship with his wife started to collapse, and she decided that she started separating herself from him in ways, and then to the point that she actually left. Then it got to the point that God started to dissolve the ministry, and people began to leave, and eventually he had to lose these things in order for this new purpose of writing this book and to break people from this repeated cycle of divorce and repeated cycle of putting ministry and putting their purpose and their destiny before their family. And so, charity begins at home and then it spreads abroad. We taught that in the church, it's in scripture. And so, when you put so much focus on ministry, that you can lose everything. I want to use a family situation. And I think my mother has a problem with me sharing this story because it's a part of both of our testimonies and how God opened the door. We was caught up in church so much that we were gone to everything. We were gone. Every time the church was doing something, every time we had a rehearsal, every time we had to go out of town, we was gone and gone and gone. And my mother lost count of sight of priorities. And it came to a point that a devastation hit our household that we was getting ready to lose everything. And she thought she was doing everything. And I was too young at that point, so I can't say we. But she thought that she was doing everything right, that there was a space missing and there was a space open. So that it goes back to what I'm talking about, that check. You have to make sure that you're discerning and you're keeping your mind open so that you're not, to the way of the spirit or to your surroundings, so that you do not get caught up into a snare. And by the grace of God, God preserved us and we didn't end up losing everything in that particular moment. But in that, we can get so caught up in building legacy, get so caught up in pursuing purpose in our dreams that we don't have balance, And so his story is amazing. Go and pick up his book, My Pain, Your Gain. I tell you, it's going to inspire your life. It's going to help you in your marriage. It's going to help you in your families. It's going to help you in your goal setting so that you make sure that you properly balance life along with pursuing purpose, and not get so caught up in, get so focused on the dream, get so caught up in the purpose that you totally miss the balance of, I got to take care of my wife, I got to take care of my children, I got to take care of my bills, I got to take care of all these things to make sure that they're properly balanced. So I just wanted to share that particular segment. But he also came on and shared what his legacy is and what he wanted to leave behind. So let's take a listen about the legacy that he wants to leave behind.
What I wanted to people to remember is that a legacy can be achieved. It can be achieved. Like I said, I had a home, and this is one of the things I'm focusing on, and you'll hear more about it in the upcoming months. That I had a home that I bought for like $67,000, but 18 years later, I'm still in that same home. I refinanced it 3 times. And that speaks volumes, because there's no way, if you had any decent strategy, that you should have that home for that long and still refinance it. And then I wound up selling it. So the legacy now is that I found out that God has blessed me to partner with some people that we call ourselves the seed sowers. And you hear more about it. Seed sowers, we make home ownership affordable. You know, $500 mortgage instead of $1,500, or $2,000, $2,500, $500 mortgage. If you plant the seed, you can eat from it. If you plant the right seed in the right gut ground, you can continue to eat from it. Farmers will never go hungry.
Yes.
Farmers will never ever go hungry, because they eat from what they plant.
Indeed.
So my legacy would be to
Indeed.
help people that are renters, help people that are struggling, living in homes that they never owned, that the bank owns, to show them how to become home owners. Because in order for you to have a voice at the table in any state, any city, you have to have ownership of property. You have to have, whether it be your business, whether it be your actual home, real estate, you have to have something where you can have a voice. Because if you don't have a voice. And that's one thing my legacy will be. This guy gave us a voice because he believed that I could have home ownership, and it's obtainable. And I'm going to show you how to do it in the days to come.
Wow. I tell you, his legacy is that he wants to inspire people to have ownership. And he said something very profound at the end. He said that in order to have a voice, you have to have ownership in business, in property, in commercial property, in assets and things of that sort. You have to have ownership, and these are important things. And so in building legacy and leaving things behind, but also having collateral when you want to get loans, and these are things that's important. This is what brings conversation to the table when you are dealing with investors, or when you're dealing with banks and you're trying to get lending. This is important. So a part of his legacy that he wants to leave behind is not only to teach that, but to let people know that it is possible. So again, I want to thank Emil Sutton for coming on and being with us on the Legacy Builder series. His story is phenomenal. Again, go and purchase his book. It's really going to inspire and bless you. Now, also, speaking of properties and speaking of assets, I had a guest on from Integrity Asset Management, and it's the executive team of Integrity Asset Management. And what they do is they specialize in how to protect, how to multiply your assets in multiple facets. So that can be from the money markets or stock market. That can be from insurance to property to commercial and residential real estate. And they came on with a wealth of knowledge that is going to give you some things to look into, give you some things to pursue after. For an example, we have Jerry, which is the CFO of Integrity Asset Management, and he comes on and explains details about how to invest into the stock market. Let's take a listen and hear what he has to say.
To your question, what do I do specifically? I am a financial planner. I'm a financial advisor. My company, Financial Feng Shui, is geared towards creating wealth within the African American community. And one of the tenets of wealth creation is investing. Investing in what? Investing in the stock market. Equity ownership amongst African Americans has always been at a level that is, where we're not accumulating wealth. We don't invest in the stock market. And what my sort of driving and motivating factor is to create an opportunity and to educate African Americans, educate our community on investments, how to analyze investments, the tools of the trade necessary to extract profits from the market. And my company, Financial Feng Shui, has a platform that's a stock market education platform that teaches our community the tools and, again, the tricks of the trade, if you will, to consistently extract money from the market, build long-term wealth in that context. I also have a platform where just recently I launched a platform that will allow individuals to invest directly into the market. So in other words, if you don't want to learn and you want to grow and have your money work, you can have me manage your money for you and we can make money together. So that is sort of kind of the aside that you're asking for about my business. I hope that answered your question there.
Indeed. Now, for someone that's getting into the stock market, what is some key essential things that a person needs to know? You can give them the basic fundamentals of some things that they need to know, and then we'll kind of proceed from there.
Yeah, the first thing is just really understanding what you're looking at. I mean, you go into the barber shop and you go to the beauty shop, and we have what we call barbershop and beauty salon talk about the next stock that we need to buy. And a lot of that's coming from a place of misinformation or lack of information. Totally. You don't know how to actually look at a stock chart. The very first thing that you need to know to answer your question is what you don't know. And how do you even analyze a stock chart? How do you actually pull up a stock chart, right? What is the difference between going long, going short? What are the tools that you need to do that? How does the market work? Those are the sort of fundamental underpinnings that you need to understand first. And once those sort of basic fundamental underpinnings are together, then we can get into strategies that we can use to build long-term wealth. So it's really basic things. How does the market makes a stock increase? What makes it decrease? What are some of the things you look for in analyzing an investment? What is the difference between fundamental analysis and technical analysis? And how do you do that analysis? And all of those kinds of things, the testing, the practice trading, that's sort of the fundamental thing that you learn first. And then from there, once that's out of the way, we can get into buying positions in Apple, Facebook, Netflix, Google, Union Pacific, all of these different companies that you can, double, triple, quadruple your money over a longer period of time, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But again, that's further down the road once we've gotten the fundamental underpinnings out of the way.
I tell you, he is very knowledgeable when it comes down to the stock market. He has, invested hundreds of thousands and has received, probably in the millions when it comes down to his investments in the stock market. And he has a wealth of knowledge. And this is something that most of us, this color people, do not do. We do not invest into the stock market. We don't get involved in it. And here's the thing that I want you to look at in this, and I want to break these stigmas and these mentalities. Look at the people that are actually doing it. Let's look at the people that's actually creating wealth, and they're doing what it is that they're doing. Sometimes they're pulling money out of their homes, and they're reinvesting it, and they're finding ways to invest into the stock market or invest into particular things that's going to take their money so that their money makes money for them. See, we get so caught up in working a job, and when we don't work, we don't get paid. Somebody was talking about this that I heard that was talking about money markets, and he was talking about how when you work a job, if you don't work a job, you don't get paid unless you have time off. But that's still something that you've already put time into. So you're getting paid off of that. But if you don't work, you don't get paid. Still, for people that have elite careers like doctors and lawyers, if you do not work, you do not get paid. If you're not in court, you don't get paid. If you're not doing surgery, you don't get paid. Same thing for business owners to a degree. And when you're not at a level that you're at a CEO and you have built a conglomerate or a Fortune 500, a Fortune 400, a Fortune 300 that it has self-sustainability by itself, if you don't work, you don't get paid. And so the thing about money markets is, or the stock market is, your money has the ability to make money for you. And while you're sleeping, your money is making money for you. And people are utilizing the money that you're investing into their business, almost like an investor, what have you, and you're able to get a return off of whatever it is that you're putting into that stock market. And so these are some things that you want to consider to apply to your life. And so Integrity Asset Management is based here in Atlanta, that has a wealth of resources and knowledge that can help you. But even if you don't want to use them, find someone that can help you in knowledge that has a track record. Important here, track record, proven track record that has moved money in markets, that has some credibility, that have people that you can talk to and say, look, I need you to show me what they've done for you, and show me how, and so they can show me how to move money in the markets and to help increase in that regard. So regardless if you use Integrity Asset Management or you use someone, this is something that you definitely want to look into. Now, we are also with Integrity Asset Management. We have Tamika that was on with us as well. She is the COO. She is involved in insurance and protecting your assets and protecting your homes and life insurance and things of that sort. And so she comes on with some important knowledge that's going to help you to protect your assets. Stay tuned and continue to watch.
So when it comes to insurance, you just want to always make sure that you are properly protected, and make sure that you have an agent who's looking out for your best interest. There are a lot of agents that don't see the value in, it's always about cheaper and trying to come in and, get the business. But you want to make sure that you have somebody who recognizes that fiduciary responsibility that an insurance agent also has as well, to do, what's in the best interest for the insured. So when it comes to your policy, you want to make sure that you understand what's covered, what's not covered. Sometimes certain features cost a little bit more money, but it depends on the type of person you are. Just like I'm going to give you an example. Dr. Bailey knows that my favorite place, and I know we're like supposed to be all black everything, but my favorite place is Nordstrom. And the reason why Nordstrom is my favorite place is because of their customer service. Because if I spend my money and something happens to the product, I'm not trying to debate you. All I want to hear is, do you want your money back or you want a replacement?
Indeed.
That's it. And in insurance, yeah, you can get replacement costs, right, which costs a little bit more, but that's how your situation is gonna be handled versus going to JCPenney's and it's gonna be actual cash value. And they're like, where's that receipt? Even though we know that paper is intended to deteriorate over a certain, amount of time, but you're going to have to haggle over your personal belongings. And when something like a home is something that is substantial, so you want to make sure that you have substantial coverage. You want to make sure that your deductible is something that you can afford, because for the life of me, I never understood why someone would have a $175,000 home with a $1,500 deductible. From my experience, in the event of a loss, more than likely they're not going to be able to pay that first $1,500. So what they'll do is sit there and let the damage just basically get worse to the point where they feel like it's over their deductible. And then when the insurance person comes out, the adjuster, they're like, okay, well, this is continuous damage, meaning you didn't do what your policy says that you're supposed to do, which is to stop the damage when you're aware of it, right?
Indeed.
And some people think that's just getting a bucket, right, and collecting the water, but we all know water leaves ring marks. So as it's expanding through the wood, it's leaving a trail. So the adjuster is going to be like, oh, this has been here for a while. So now guess what? Even though it's now $15,000 worth of damage, they can deny the claim because your failure to act, right? But if you don't have an agent who explained that to you, would you know that?
Wow. See, this goes back to my last statement that I just made. You need to do your due diligence and make sure that who you're working with it has some credibility and it has a wealth of knowledge that's going to give you what you need. She just gave you a lot of wisdom tools there. I understand exactly what she's talking about when it comes down to property damage and dealing with adjusters, because I actually worked for Allstate in two different aspects. With Allstate, that I had to work with adjusters, one for natural catastrophe and one for flood or home damage, home insurance. And a lot of people would do exactly that. They will not do their due diligence based on their deductible and not get the damages fixed. But when a tragedy happens, then they're going to not pay out for that damage because they can see that, okay, this mold has been growing here for a long period of time, or this, they are able to tell. That's what they get paid to do, to be able to assess damage. And so with that being said, you want to make sure that you're working with an insurance agent that's not about just trying to get your money and just trying to get you into a policy so they can get that sale and move you on, but they want to give you valuable information that's going to help you to protect your assets. And this is the part of asset management. You want to protect your legacies that you want to leave behind. If one of the legacies that you want to leave behind is property ownership and you want to protect your assets, you want to make sure that you have insurance in place. So look for you an insurance agent. Look or look for a place that you can get a bundle deal, that you can get, all of your as many insurances that you can bundle so that you can save as much money as possible. So look into these options. So she came on with a wealth of knowledge and information that's going to help you. Now, I know we get caught up in the fact, like, it's so expensive and I'm already set with a dollar amount that I already got to pay my bills and my resources is tapped out or what have you. They came on and talked about that. And the reason why I brought that up as a subject matter is because we're dealing with a pandemic of people that are dying left and right, and people have GoFundMe pages trying to find ways to get themselves out of these ruts or trying to help bury a loved one and not realize that you already had the ability to take care of what you need to take care of. So let's take a listen to this clip and hear what they have to say about that subject.
Well, I always strongly suggest that people purchase their policies who don't currently have them around tax season, because we know how we do. We know how our people do during tax time. You want to buy televisions, you want to buy, right, ridiculous. You want to buy things that you typically would not buy. So I always suggest you do it that time of year and you pay for the policy in full. Pay the whole thing. Pay the $1,500 or whatever annually, because the annual premium is always going to be less than a monthly premium. And they also have quarterly, semi-annually, you can pay as well. But again, depending on how much you spread the premium out, it goes up a little bit more because there are installment fees and different things like that are tacked on. So if you can't pay it in full, one lump sum, try to minimize it. I don't know, like downgrade on some things, tighten up on your budget. But life insurance is very important. And anyone who knows me, they know I don't participate in GoFundMe's because I'm sitting there like, why you ain't got no insurance? But tax season, everyone's in the mall. We line up for Jordans, all these things that are of no value and that doesn't really benefit your life. we seem to glorify and go after. So I don't participate in GoFundMe's. I be sitting there looking like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the truth. It's unfortunate, but it really is the truth. And so you have to, budget yourself to make sure that you can take care of these things. And, and it's not always easy, but getting somebody that's a financial advisor, which you'll be back on with us in a moment, but getting somebody that is a financial advisor to show you how to budget yourself out, you'll realize that you can actually afford it. It's not as difficult as you think it is. And maybe you might not can't afford a financial advisor. You can actually purchase an app, or download an app and put in your funds what you actually make in, and it will actually divide up, put in your expenses, and it'll actually tell you realistically, you might need to cut back. You might not can afford those red
right,
bottoms. You might can't afford that 60 or that 70 or 90-inch TV to put in your living room for what, or do it during Black Friday. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Bailey.
Another thing you can, we can even help them with is, I think most of my team know me. I am a avid coffee drinker, and I got to stop at Starbucks or somewhere every day before I go to the office. But even if a person is doing that or going to McDonald's or Wendy's every day, the price that you're paying to stop at a Wendy's, McDonald's, or to buy a pack of cigarettes, or to buy your weave or different, you can put that aside.
Wow, I'm sorry. That clip got cut short. I do apologize for that. But he was talking about how you can put your money aside and you can invest your money into, put that money aside and save that. And you'll find out that the money that you're spending on these trivial, simple things, you can actually pay off your insurance. You can pay it off for the entire year. When you start to calculate the money that you're spending at Wendy's and all this eating out and buying all this unnecessary stuff, that you can actually invest these things into protecting your assets. And so I use the example about an app that I actually learned about this personally myself by using this, because at that particular point in time, I did not have the additional funds to pay a financial advisor. And so what I did was I went online. It was a free app, and you put in your monthly income. You put in breaking down your individual expenses from your mortgage or your rent or your taxes, your insurance, all your utilities, and additional things that you pay or what have you, and it will break down your monthly expenses, and it will let you know exactly what you have left over per month. And you can guesstimate and say, okay, my light bill, you can't never set a dollar amount unless you're in one of those fixed situations that it's set that same amount every month. However, you can put in there, you can round up and say, okay, my bill averages maybe $125 a month, but I'm gonna up it to $150 or $175 so that I can protect myself, to say I got extra in the event if something goes, or the bill is high, or summer months and you're running your air longer, or it's winter season, you're running your heat longer, that you cover yourself and that you put that extra in there, so okay, most of bulk of my bills is during the first of the month, so I know I can't do much that. Or let me split my bills up, so I pay a portion of my bills up on the first of the month and to pay the other half of the bills on the second of the month, so I'm not pulling out so much at one time, so I can balance things out. Learn how to budget, and those apps will help you if you cannot afford a financial planner. That's going to help you how to navigate your money and show you how to invest it. And that is the starting process. And then you can actually get other apps like Acorns and things of that sort that will take a percentage of your money that you spend on certain things and round up the dollar and take that money, invest it into the stock market or invest it into something else, or actually save it for you. So these are different things that you can use that will cause discipline to yourself, because you know that, okay, you're a impulse buyer. When you see something, you got to buy it, you got to have it. You can't save, or you can't plan ahead and make sure that you're storing up for a rainy day, or storing up for life, for future. And so that was a great wealth of information. I do apologize that Dr. Bailey's clip got cut off a little bit there. So coming back on with Dr. Bailey. He's coming on with Kamisha, which is the CIO. She deals in investments in property and owning homes and commercial real estate and things of that sort. And so I asked her, I said, dealing with this pandemic, and I asked both of them, dealing in this pandemic, is this the time to buy, or is this the time to really kind of save your money or get your credit together, or what have you? And they had a wealth of information that they wanted to share that's going to show you how to properly do your due diligence in your region. Stay tuned.
Things that we tend to look at is this: we look at and I talk about our community because that's who I work with. I talk about us Black people. And we have a tendency to just look at, is my credit good enough to get a house? Is my credit good enough to get this? And so we focus on credit instead of researching the market. And so once we have sufficient credit, we'll go out and buy and not look at the market at all. And again, like I said, it depends on where you are. I'm licensed in both California and Georgia, and the market is different in both areas. So so you have to really research the market before you go in to look at anything. And also, don't be afraid of investing. If it's something that you feel, group investments, if it's partnerships, if it's something that you feel that you're unable to do on your own, right now, like you mentioned before, the government has been giving money and grants and loans and things for that of that nature. If you use the whatever you're able to get at this particular point, especially if you're in real estate, to invest in properties and do it as a unit, as a group, then you could find things that are beneficial to you. There's a lot of developments, like Gary mentioned before, looking in Baltimore and things in Baltimore, and doing that as a collective, as opposed to just somebody trying to do it individually, will have more benefit than like I said, than just looking at it as what you can do for yourself. That's kind of what I have right now. I have something else in mind, but it's kind of slipping away. We have a difference in time zone, so I'm still kind of in work mode because I'm still working, but at the same time, I'm doing the broadcast. So if I miss a few things here and there, my phone's still going off and things like that. So, Dr. Bailey, you may want to chime in here.
No problem.
One example I can use is back in me and Kamisha worked together in California, and around the time when the market crashed between 2007, 2009, in that area, people were just buying. And what happened was they started getting into these bad loans that didn't make any sense. And so I remember particularly Wachovia, which is Wells Fargo. A lot of my clients ended up with Wachovia loans. And so what they did is at that time, they had what they call pick a payment. They had three options. You could pay the minimum option. There was a middle option and a higher option. And a lot of people were paying that minimum option. And then what happened was their property became upside down. So what we started doing then is we started doing a bunch of loan modifications or short sales because people were losing their homes because they were making bad investment decisions. And so with integrity, that's one of the things we want to educate people, because it may not be the right time to buy in that particular market. Like, I would not encourage someone to go into Baltimore and flip a property. You are not going to make money going into Baltimore. But Atlanta is an area, and there's certain areas in Atlanta you can do a flip. But there's other parts of Atlanta you just want to buy and sit and hold because the areas are not gentrified yet. So it really goes back to what I said earlier, is just doing market research.
Indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's really, again, and I'm going to say it again, is it's important to do your research and to plan and to read and to find out what it is that you're trying to do before you jump head first into something. And then, you might think you're jumping into the deep end, and you're actually jumping into something very shallow. So you have to be very, very careful.
And I want to add, don't be afraid to ask us those questions.
Yes.
It seems like we can trust it more from Bob than Gary or Kamisha or Jerry. We have just as much knowledge as Bob, if not more. So don't be come to us and ask us, because this is what we do on a daily basis. This is something that we live and we breathe, because one thing I can say about my team, we all have a passion for what we do, which means we love what we do. So we're always involved in it. But then our own folks will say, well, I ain't going to ask him because he think he know it all, or she thinks she know it all. We got to get past that stuff. And that's the problem with the African-American community. We carry that crab in the bucket mentality where we always want to pull each other down. We don't want to support each other. But if we realize we are the strongest people in this country, and if we stick together, work together, and collaborate together, we can accomplish a whole lot more together than we can individually.
Wow. I tell you, I mean, it was so many different nuggets in there that I want to pull out. The last thing he said about how we don't, sometimes we get so caught up in thinking that us as an African American community, that we're not knowledgeable. And so we want to rely upon another race to give us wisdom and knowledge. And don't be guarded in your thought process. Don't be so guarded in your mind thinking that people of a certain race or creed do not have a wealth of knowledge. Probably, if not anything, those probably are individuals that probably know even more because they studied more, because they had to work their way up in the market to get to where they are. And so don't be so shallow in your thinking that a certain race of people does not have the ability to give you wealth of knowledge and wealth of resource. Also, I want to add to that as well. You have to do your due diligence. I said this in the clip. You have to do your due diligence and not jump into something head first. You might land in the shallow end instead of the deep end. And so you want to read, you want to study the market. You want to make sure that this is the time to buy. You want to look at different property values and look at, study properties and look at the influxing of how properties are going up and down, and it gives you negotiation power because what comps is in the area. You know what's comparable to the unit that you're purchasing, and getting connected to a real estate agent that knows what they're doing, that's going to give you wisdom on how to navigate and how to properly purchase and not just get you for your money. And so this is a part of the process of, if you want to get into home purchasing, you have to read, you have to study, because and look into things, because you don't want to sign on a dotted line and then you find out that you bought a lemon of a home that you didn't get an inspection done, and you didn't have somebody walk through with you that is a contractor to make sure that the things that looks on the surface can be what needs to be fixed, so that you can ask for a reduction in price, so that and then have them to look at the foundation, look at the roof, look and see if there's asbestos based on the year and the making of the home. These are things that's important. You don't want to just jump in head first. Sometimes we think ignorance is bliss, but ignorance will have you in a situation just like this check. Yeah, that $3,500 look amazing. I know it do. I know it looks amazing. But if I didn't do my due diligence and if I stay ignorant, this $3,500 would have been in debt, and I probably would be in jail. I probably will be sitting somewhere with FBI investigating me because I decided to deposit this counterfeit check. If you missed it, go back and watch the replay. No worries, but there's a story to this at the beginning of the show. You definitely don't want to miss that. But I want to thank Integrity Asset Management for coming on, Dr. Gary Bailey, Jerry, Kamisha, Tamika, for coming on. They have a wealth of knowledge. If you want interested in learning more about them, look them up online under Integrity Asset Management. They have a wealth of knowledge to be able to help you to navigate in the market and home purchasing, how to get yourself some insurance, life insurance, home insurance, or any other insurances to protect your assets, as well as how to navigate in the stock market and the money markets. Definitely look into them. And if you don't want to look into them, look into some others that's going to give you what it is that you want to do. Again, Emil said this that spending power, having a home is what's going to give you buying power. Having property, owning something is what's going to give you power in rooms. And so this is something that you definitely want to consider. So again, thank you, Integrity Asset Management, for coming on and sharing your wealth of wisdom. Now, I have another person that came on. This is actually a relative of mine. She is a filmmaker. She also works in television. She's produced commercials. One of her latest commercials that I'm aware of that she produced was actually for the last Super Bowl, and it was an amazing commercial. And so she came on and she shared. Her name is Melissa Randle. Yes, we both are Randles. She is my first cousin, and again, she's a film and TV professional, and she has worked on and been a part of many different projects, or what have you. And so she came on with some wealth of knowledge. And she's not. What I brought from this is her journey. There is going to be a segment of clips that I'm going to share, and they're literally kind of back to back, but I'm breaking them up in clips because I want to kind of break down a couple of things that she shared, because she was talking about how she came out of the corporate world and she migrated into acting, and then it migrated into production and being in the film industry. And she had some really interesting knowledge and revelation of some things that she shared that I wanted to pull out, and I wanted to share so that you can be enlightened to her story. So let's take a listen and hear about how Melissa Randle got started in the film industry, in the acting industry.
So I actually originally thought that I was going to be an attorney. I love the law, and I was a sociology pre-law major and thought I would end up going to law school. That ended up not happening. And instead, after college, when I moved to Georgia, I ended up working in the corporate world for a major retailer in their engineering and real estate divisions. And I did that for about 8 years, and continued to grow and excel in that space, and promotion after promotion. And there came a point where I actually got laid off. And I had to make a decision. Do I continue on in that field, or do I perhaps pursue something else of interest to me? Prior to that fork in the road, we'll say, I had been exposed to the film and television industry on a more direct level. Obviously, growing up as a child, we literally had like a Blockbuster video in our house when we were kids, and it was a part of our culture. When I went to college, I literally worked at Blockbuster to feed that that need that I had. And but, like most of us, especially those of us that grew up in the Midwest, a career in entertainment is not something that is encouraged or deemed viable. And so we're kind of directed into other areas where our parents know that we will be able to sustain ourselves. So when I was in the corporate space, I actually had the opportunity to pursue some background work on a couple of studio projects, and just having a love for the medium in general. Of course, I was like, yes, I want to be in a movie. My first film was actually Drumline, and again, just as background. But that first introduction to being on set really set the tone, and I actually got bit by the bug at that moment, that first day on set. I got to see the wheels working behind the scenes. I got to learn some terminology about how they shoot and the phrasing of certain things, and just seeing the process come together instead of being a viewer, but being a participant. And it bit me, but, being of sound mind, and again, working in corporate and having this ingrained in you that, artsy fartsy is not the way to go. I kind of put it on the back burner, and I didn't really nurture that interest. I thought, I have a real job, I have a corporate job, it's stable, I'm not gonna go pursue Hollywood. So I did a couple of other films during that time, but still it was just like, oh, this is, kind of fun, but whatever. Well, fast forward 4 years, 2 promotions, 2 company moves later, and I'm now in a position where I'm laid off. And I have the choice of going to one of the many companies that I have a relationship with and continuing my career in commercial real estate, or perhaps pursuing an interest that I had in the entertainment space. And for those who know me, my motto is no regrets. Like,
Indeed.
out of all, that is said and done, I just don't want to have a regret about anything when it's all over. And so I thought to myself, well, it's not like you're going to lose the insight that you gained in that space. So pursue this. If it doesn't work, you can always go back. The opportunities will still be there. The connections and relationships are still there, and you can just carry on. But it was really important for me to pursue this. And being of the age where I owned, what my future was going to look like. It was no longer about pleasing someone else. It was about taking ownership of the direction of my life. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. Some family were like, you want to do what? Like, no, good paying job. But for me, I've never been a materialistic person. It's always been the work that I do being fulfilling that drives me. And so again, I said, I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to pursue this, and we'll see what happens.
Wow. I tell you, there was so much in that segment. I tell you, it was so much in that segment that she said that she was at a crossroads. I know some of us, we're at crossroads right now. We're trying to decide, because we're dealing in this pandemic. Am I going to go ahead and pursue a regular 9-to-5? I'm going to pursue my business. Am I going to go back to school or what have you? And you're at a crossroads and you're trying to decide which lane is important for you, or that's going to take you to the next place in your journey. And, interesting with her story is that she was talking about how, coming from, we're both from Chicago, from the Midwest. And, as she said, that's not looked at, happily looked at when you're trying to pursue something in the entertainment community or anything that's arts driven, something that doesn't secure a check, something that is not a 9-to-5, that you're going in for hourly wages, you put in your hours, you get your check, and you have some sustainability, or you've invested yourself into a career, being in law or being in medical industry or whatever that's going to sustain you. And so it was frowned upon, but she came to a crossroads in her life that no longer is she allowing her life to be dictated by somebody else, and to say that, I'm going to make a decision, and regardless of if it works or if it doesn't work, I know on the other side, I got these other gifts and talents that I can go back to the corporate industry if I want to. I know I got that history. I know I have the background. I give myself an example before I play this next clip, because this is really, really, really good. I give myself as an example that I had years of experience in customer service, years of experience in it, that I managed teams. I did training. I did, I was a supervisor, and I worked myself from being entry level to working myself up to being a manager in positions in different companies. And then I became an entrepreneur. And so I've been in business. This November will make 15 years in business. And I know that I have something that I can fall back on if this didn't work. So it's like, okay, why not take a risk? Why not jump? Why not take a leap of faith? As she said, I'm going to take a leap of faith, and I'm going to see what happens on the other side of this. And that's so, I tell you, when she was talking, I was like, oh my God, she has so much revelation in what she's saying. It is amazing. And it was one after the other to hear her journey, that she had these paradigm shift moments in her life that decide that, I've been doing well in real estate. I've been doing well in the corporate industry, but I have a passion in this. Do I go after my passion, or do I stay with sustainability? Do I go after my dreams, or do I go after what I know that's going to pay the bills? And just because you're going after your dreams doesn't mean it's not going to pay the bills. It may even supersede what it is that you're doing in the corporate industry. And so, I tell you, her story is phenomenal. But let's dive back in to another clip that is in connection to this, that it was so much that she shared that I want to bring that out and then talk more about it. Stay tuned.
And so I did that. Now, the funny thing is, when I was still in corporate and I was getting all these opportunities to do these studio films, I wasn't even really looking for them or searching them out. They were just seemed to be plentiful. When I decided this is what I want to pursue, all of a sudden I couldn't find the resources anymore, and it became a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, and but I take it as it was intended to be a challenge, because it shouldn't have been easy. And me making the decision to make that transition, I needed to fully commit. And oftentimes things that are easy for you, you don't necessarily appreciate. So I doing my due diligence, trying to find resources, kind of hitting roadblocks, and I'm like, I know it's out there. Like, I literally was just doing this 4 years ago and there was stuff everywhere. But I stumbled upon a company that was an acting school agency. And I thought, I'm pretty savvy. Like I said, I'm from Chicago, street smart. So, I kind of did my homework and checked out the company ahead of time, because we know there's so many people willing to prey on the hopes and dreams of, the youth and anybody aspiring to achieve something. So I'd done my research as best I could without being in the industry and really knowing a lot, and went on the audition, and, was still skeptical. And they said, oh, you did good. You have some chops. But, there's some cost that comes associated with this. And that's when the eyebrow went up and the Chicago came out. And, as he went down this litany of items that I needed to, fork over money for. But I knew that there was a cost associated with pursuing, an interest in acting. Of course, there are tools that you need, headshots, you do need training, even if you have a raw natural ability. So those things kind of made sense to me, but still I was like, okay, how much is this going to cost? And so I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Out of this laundry list of things that you rolled out, I will sign up to get my headshots done, because I know for a fact that that is something that is needed, and it is a nominal amount. It was $99. So I signed up for that session, came back, went to the session. My spidey sense had kind of been tingling, because it was like, okay, so you're the school, you're the agency, and you do the headshots. I thought like those were kind of separate companies.
Right.
So went to the photo shoot. The photographer was just like an employee of the company, and the whole setup was not, what you imagine as somebody trying to start your career as a starlet or anything. And I just said in that moment, I was like, this isn't the right place, but that's okay. I took the step forward, and that's what was really important. And ironically, that $99 lesson was the most valuable lesson, but it wasn't even a painful one. And the reason I say that is because I left the photo shoot going, that's $99 I'm not going to see again, but it's okay. I know better. But on the way home, on the radio, there was an advertisement for a film festival that was happening locally. Now, the funny thing is, I had actually tried to connect with the film festival organizers previously to no avail. And they were having their kickoff event that night at what used to be Puppy's Justin's in Buckhead. And I was like, you know what? I'm already dressed, and this is a woman thing, but I was like, I'm cute. So I can go because I already, have boosted myself up. If I had been at home to start, all of the doubt and other things would have kind of set in, and I wouldn't have probably gone. And even still, to be fair and honest, I had doubts because I didn't know anything about the industry other than being a consumer of it. And I thought, how am I going to fit in this space and interact and network with people and talk intelligently? I know commercial real estate. I don't know film and TV. And so what happened was I had a friend, a big brother from college. He used to go to Justin's all the time. And that was the night he would go. And I was like, this is perfect. I can have like my wingman. He can help me out. I called him up. He didn't answer.
I tell you, this is why I'm glad I'm doing the segments like this, because it gives me an opportunity to share, my thoughts based off of what the guests are saying. Because when you're interviewing, you don't want to interject. You want them to tell their story. And I tell you, there was so much revelation in that. I tell you, how she, got connected to a industry that was telling her that she's going to need all these things to have done, but something in her was like, I don't know, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these headshots done. I'm not going to spend the maximum, because I've heard of companies like that before. I will never forget when I was in high school. I was in a fashion show in high school, and the next day I got a call from a company that worked that wanted to be a part of a modeling institute, and they was telling me about the photos I had to have done, and the training and all that stuff, and all of it was done through them, and I had to spend all these hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars in order to be a part of this. And at first I was interested, but something about me was like, and I think something about my mother even was like, and plus it was too expensive for us at that point anyway. So it was like, it wasn't it. And so probably to this day, you probably never even heard of that company, even in existence today. And so again, I gave that example of that check. You have to do your due diligence, but she didn't, because we don't know the nature of that particular story, but she decided to go ahead and take a risk. And she decided to go ahead and pay the $99. And it was a $99 lesson that she learned, because of the fact that these people were not as legit as she thought that they were. And so, it's really important. I tell you, it's really important, that you do your due diligence, and you don't just get so caught up in the moment that you don't prepare yourself and make sure that you're not going to be hoodwinked and bamboozled. You're going to find yourself in a situation just like I would have been if I would have cashed that $3,500 check. And so, it's just to hear how her shift and process in her mind, and how she started to take this leap of faith, and how she said when she first started in the industry, and just doing little acting and little things was readily available to her. But then when she finally made the decision, it wasn't available. It was like, where's it at? All these opportunities. And so it's twofold to that. The first thing of it is that, and I'm going to take the spiritual for a moment. You have to be like the sons of Issachar to be able to discern the times and the seasons, and be able to move in the proper season, because you might miss your moment. You might miss your opportunity. But then God's will is always going to prevail. So I had this revelation recently about how you have a plan, and many plans in the heart of man, but God's will is what's going to prevail. It's what's going to stand. And so I got this revelation about how I had a plan involved of having, something done, and that was going to do X, Y, and Z, and then it collapsed. It didn't happen exactly according to plan. And even though I thought everything was happening with God, everything was like, oh my God, this is amazing, and it's coming together, and so on and so forth. But then when the plan shifted and changed, and the plan that ended up happening actually prospered, I ended up realizing that was the plan. That was the original intent. That's what God intended to happen. And so we get caught up in like, okay, my original plans failed and it didn't happen this way, but didn't realize that the second thing, or the third, or the plan A, B, or C, or D ended up being the one that was actually his will. And so we get caught up in that. We forget about that. And so in that, she missed her opportunities when it was in front of her, because she didn't make the decision that she wanted to pursue this as a career, or as a business, or as something of passion. And so eventually, then she starts to make the decision. And so she says that if if it was meant to be easy, then you won't appreciate, or you will undervalue what it is that you're giving. And I talk about this, about giving wisdom to people and sharing. I've learned to be more cautious in who I share wisdom with, because people that don't value it is because you gave it away too freely. You gave things away too freely, and they don't value it. Just like when I raise my children, once I come into my wealth and I come into my billions, I'm going to teach my children a work ethic. Yeah, you're going to be heir to the throne, if you will. However, I'm going to teach you a work ethic, because you have to learn how to multiply and to maintain what you have, which is the same principles of what Jewish culture is. They teach their children on the family business to raise them up, so they have a clear understanding how to maintain what they have in their possession when their parents have ascended on. And so let's go back. I'm pull out of that a little bit. I want to go back into some more of what Melissa had to say. I'm telling you that this portion of this clip, I mean, it was literally back to back to back of some things that she shared. So where she left off was, she was after going to this photo shoot, and she felt like she wasted this $99. She, on her way home, she heard an advertisement on the radio of this actor, this film event that was going on, that she was interested in, that she had inquired about before. And so she felt like, okay, well, I'm already dressed to the nines. Let me go ahead and look into this and go to this event. Interesting how, again, you're talking about the first plan you thought was God, but then you look up plan B or plan C or plan D, ended up being his will. And so she ends up feeling like, she's like, you know what, I'm already dressed. Ain't no point in me going home. Let me go ahead and check out this event, because it's going on right now. So let's go ahead and dive back into the part 3 of that segment that she was talking about, how she got connected to this event. Stay tuned. Wow.
And I said, you know what? Okay. And so I had to come to Jesus with myself. And I said, Melissa, you want to pursue a career as an actor. No one is going to go on an audition with you. No one is going to be in that room holding your hand. It's a solo journey. And if you really want to do this, then just shut up and do it and go to this event. And if you don't go to the event, and this is me talking to myself, then I was like, I don't want to hear anything else about it. So either you go and do this or you don't. And that was all it took. And literally I said, you know what? I'm going. I can do this. And I took off driving towards Buckhead. My big brother called me, but I was already en route, already very close to Justin's. And he was like, hey, yeah, I'm going. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, cool, whatever. Because at that point, I was so set and determined in my direction that I didn't need him to be my backup and support, because I was convicted. So to make a long story, try to shorten it. I went to the event. It was in a private back room. I was still anxious, but I was very excited. And I just started interacting with people, and I started listening. And I was so engrossed and engaged in the conversation. My big brother called me and was like, hey, I'm at the bar. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll be there in a second. And there was something that clicked for me that was like, you can never walk away from a conversation and get that moment back, you know? Right. It's always something different. And I was just so absorbed in what was being discussed and just living and breathing in that space that I was like, well, I can't leave right now because I'm going to miss something. So long story short, I never saw my big brother that night. He actually, I think, was a little peeved with me because he called me a couple of times and I kept saying, I'm coming. But again, that $99 that I spent, that some might, think was a loss, ended up being the catalyst for my whole career, because that night was such a pivotal moment. I met some wonderful people. I spoke with the festival organizers. They were like, oh yeah, we need people. And I'm like, hey, I'm laid off. So I have nothing but time. I can definitely volunteer for you. And so I joined them the next day as a volunteer. I got to see the inner workings of the festival landscape. I got to interact with all of the VIP guests as far as the filmmakers. and the other volunteers and the guest speakers. And that environment, that experience is the reason why I'm still in the business today, because, you know,
Wow.
we think about Hollywood and the industry and the horror stories that you hear, and it's like, you know, there's a lot of charlatans, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't out to, you know, with your best interest at heart. And what I found was completely different. And I don't know if this is necessarily the norm, but my experience in that moment was that I encountered some of the most gracious people who were like, well, what is it you want to do in the business? And they were sharing of information. They were sharing of their contact. They were like, here's my email, here's my phone number, you know, keep in contact, reach out. One of the sessions was one on acting. And of course, since that was my goal at the time, I really wanted to attend it, but I ended up having to cover someone else's shift in a screening room. And so I ran into the person who was orchestrating that session, and she actually was the executive director of Screen Actors Guild. And I ran into her in the hallway, and she stopped. She was headed somewhere. She had a little traveling thing she was pulling behind her with all kind of stuff in it. And she stopped. She reached into her case, and she just started pulling out information. And she started giving me stuff, handouts from her session. And then she started sharing verbally with me all sorts of insights that I could use to help to advance my career and my interest is being in front of the camera as an actor. And I still have to this day the envelope, not envelope, it was a file folder. And I wish I had thought to have it down here to show you, because that was, well, that was over 15 years ago. But that file folder, front and back, has scribblings of notes because she was just so gracious with the information that she shared.
I tell you, you guys, her story is really amazing. It's really profound. And as her cousin, I have bear witness to having experiences similar to that, about being at the right place at the right time. But I'm gonna put a pin in that and come back to that thought in a moment. When she started off, she talked about how when she paid the $99, she was in the car on her way home, and she heard on the radio. See, here's the thing about being at the right place at the right time. Things are a domino effect. It's a domino effect. So if she decided not to pay the $99 and go to that photo shoot, she would have never left that place of business feeling like she had, if you will, wouldn't have been dressed to the nines, wouldn't have been in the car to hear on the radio of this event. And she was already dressed and ready to go, already ready to go, to get to the place where destiny met her. Destiny met her, but she had to take a $99 loss to go through these processes to get to a place that was the catalyst to her career. She ended up meeting people and rubbing elbows with people, which I'm pretty sure she's still connected to this day. She received a wealth of information from somebody from the Screen Actors Guild that she still has today, that she's able to use that information and those details. So she had to have a come to Jesus moment and to break fear. Because she could have said, you know what, I'm going to go home, I'm going to relax or whatever. I already had this photo shoot, I'm tired. But she had to come to Jesus moment and realize that, you know what, this is something that I want to be a part of. This is something that I say I wanted to do. There's favor here. Let me go. And if it don't work out, it don't work out. But I don't want to, don't want to hear from myself that you didn't do it. And so she literally had to come to Jesus moment with God. She had to come to Jesus moment with herself to say, you know what, I need to do this. And she's already ready. Again, domino effect. Because let's say if she didn't go to that and pay for that photo shoot, it was not dressed and ready, and she was just at home watching TVs, watching movies, because she said she loved movies, and having her a blockbuster popcorn and soda moment at home, she wouldn't have heard the advertisement on the radio. she would have missed the moment because it was literally right there in the moment. This is really important, you guys, as lessons, as tools. I hope you writing this stuff down. I hope you are ingesting this and taking this in, because I tell you, sometimes we can miss our moment because we decided to lay up. We decided to watch TV. We decided not to be at the right place at the right time and make this connection to this person, and end up being the thing that catapulted her to the destiny that she's in right now. I tell you, that's why I had to use this as a part of her segment. I know she's talking about the film industry and how she got in and all that. But I tell you, if you want to go back and watch that, please go back and watch the episodes. But these 3 clips was so profound, was so impacted with revelation, that I tell you that it should inspire you. It should inspire you to make you think from a different perspective, to understand that you have to move strategically. You gotta, put your passion into the thing that you want to do, and then go after it and to move into it. And so what you had a loss that might bring you to the connection to the door that's going to open wide for you, that's going to take you to the next level. So I thank you, my cousin. Thank you, Melissa Randle, for coming on and sharing your story. I tell you, it is phenomenal. If you missed it, go back and watch it. It's available on YouTube. It's available on Facebook. Also, I had another phenomenal guest that came on with me as well. He is my celebrity guest. So this is the last guest of the hour, hour and a half, that I'm going to share of some clips. That his story is also phenomenal. His name is Victor Love. He has acted in many things, from The Resident to A Different World as far as TV shows, and he's been featured in a lot of different films. And I'm not going to go over his resume right now, but he had some very, very profound things that he said that, he felt like this is a part of my story, and he wanted to share. And he was building momentum in his career, and things was going excellent for him, and doors and connections was opening to him, and then he started to find himself getting caught up into some things that he didn't think that he would ever get himself caught up in. And I want you to hear his story, a portion of his story, because I tell you, this is going to, again, just like Emil, is going to enlighten you while you're pursuing after your dreams, while you're pursuing after your purpose and your destiny, to be mindful of some things. So take a listen.
I think for me, it was the arrogance of believing that I was immune. It was the arrogance of this ain't gonna happen to me. I ain't like that. Look at me, I'm a success. It was also the fact that I began leading a secret life, I think. There was, as I said before, I didn't really enjoy being looked at. Y'all can look at me now, shoot, I like being looked at now, but I did not like being looked at. I didn't feel worthy. And so I began going out after classes, and even sometimes after church, to little neighborhood bars and things, having a drink and sitting there and just being anonymous, just being, not having to be on, is what I felt at the time. The industry has always had its ups and its gold and its dirt, So I would not say that the industry or anybody in the industry tempted me. In fact, to most of them, I was such a good boy. I was, sweet Victor Love. And none of them, like even when I talked with Sam and LaTanya, she said, "Why didn't you let us know that you were going through that?" And I said, "I don't know. I didn't let anyone know." When I'm looking back on it, and as I work with people now, sometimes the pain of life is so much, so horrible, that we find an outlet in ways that maybe we wouldn't have to find an outlet if we had the kind of receptivity to medical help, to mental help, to, I think now looking back, it was the trauma of being a young Black American in a time awful change and killings. And, the trauma doesn't mean it happens to me. Trauma happens because we see it. I went through trauma. And and people will tell you, I didn't drink, I didn't drug, I didn't do anything. And then one day I said, what the hell? Everybody else is doing it, and they seem like they're happy. So I was judging my insides by their outsides. And I tried it. It was fun. And then it became not fun. It became not fun. It began to replace the God-sized hole in my heart. And the only thing a God-sized hole can be filled with is God.
Yeah.
So, but it was arrogance. I just thought, it'll never happen to me. I'll do it now. I'll do it there. And it became a way out until I couldn't stop it. People were there for me, my family.
Wow.
And one of the things, Ace, that it really did for me was to make me less judgmental. I don't judge people by what they do anymore. There was a part of, I don't know if it's a part of your family too, but you see somebody out there and you're like, what the hell are they doing? Well, I understand what they're doing. They're running from their pain. They're doing all that they can do. They're doing the best they can do until somebody teaches them that we can do better. And I had that arrogance. I had that.
Absolutely.
I had that better than. I didn't know it. I thought I was just doing what people in my group did. But I look down on people, and I'm not proud of that.
Wow. I tell you, sometimes you can look at a celebrity and think that, their life is so much perfect and, because it's a success or what have you. But sometimes even success will magnify the sin that's on the inside of you. Or what it can do is, expose you to some things that will cause you to be in something that will shift you to destroy what it is that you're trying to build or what you're trying to attain. And he said it was arrogance that he thought that, oh, this would never happen to me, that I will never get caught up in, drinking and drugs because I've been deemed, this good boy, this good person because, of my name, that my name has love in it. And people associate that with me because of my characters and things of that sort. And they and people don't realize that people have issues. And we don't realize how important mental health is, and having somebody to talk to and talk through some things and having wise counsel or what have you. But we can get so caught up and figure, okay, well, they're doing it. I know I'll do it on occasion, but then eventually it's going to build habits and you're going to want more. And it's like you're chasing the high. You're chasing the high and you're trying to find the thing, as he said, to fulfill that God-sized hole in your heart or in your mind or in your spirit. And the only thing that can fill it is him. And so I tell you, his story is phenomenal. And it's really important to take this in. And while you're building legacy, just like I said with Emil, you have to be cautious and careful of the snares and the traps that come. Because I tell you, it will cause you to devastate you and devastate your name and devastate your purpose, your destiny. And you look up and boom, it's over, it's done, and your career is gone, or what have you. And so, but by the grace of God, that did not happen to him. And so I want to kind of bring in another clip that he talked about as well, as about how he was saying about the deception of things and how that also played a factor in how things happen in his life. Stay tuned.
See, deception, by its very name, it does not show itself for what it is. It is in the realities of life. It is in those corners that we take as a shortcut. Deception is just that. Most of us don't think about deception. We think about getting up, going, moving forward, moving on up and all of that. And that's where the deception lives. It lives in us taking the shortcuts, thinking that we can use each other to get someplace, forgetting that there's a human being right here who has feelings. I really I think the thing that's so interesting though is that people all know they all know they can fall. And they think they don't fall, but we fall in different ways. The thing that I think is really powerful is watching somebody rediscover that they can get up. Is watching someone discover they can get up. I don't have a need to floss. I don't have a need for you to think anything about me because God has graced me with a way to make a living and graced me with family and friends. And so I can actually be pretty authentic. I can, and when I share the fact that I have been there, when I share the fact that I was living in the car, that the trees were blowing down around me a few years ago when when Atlanta was in trouble. When I share that, they can hear me. I don't need to be one person at a time, one life at a time. That's huge. So I never thought I would be this guy, but I've got to be this guy. And I have a reason to live, and I have a reason to teach. I have a reason to teach people that they have the answers inside of themselves, that God made us brilliant, and that we begin to listen to these voices that say we are not. And I'm like, I tell my kids, I say, don't bring that voice in here. See, you the one bringing that voice in here telling you can't do it. You the one bringing that voice in here telling you that you're too good, you ain't good enough. I said, I didn't invite that voice. I invited you. And so you come on in here, get that voice out there. You see, so I don't know. That's why Evolve is what it is. It's a mindful studio. We know that our success doesn't lie in outer stuff. Our success lies in finding the universe within ourselves and letting the sun come out. Our success lies in us being a family of actors who want the best for all of us. Our success lies in knowing how to use the tools the way that an athlete knows how to use his tools or her tools to become, to share the gift that God gave us. And so we spend time on meditation and we spend time in our own way on prayer. We never force anyone to pray, but we spend time in just getting still and creating life and using tools that are proven tools to get ahead and to celebrate who we are. And shoot, I could jump up and down right now, but that's dignified.
I tell you, I tell you, his story is really, really phenomenal. And you can hear how things shifted for him, how he was in the film industry. And he still is in the film industry, and make that clear. Still in the film industry, but now he's teaching. And so he's realizing his passion for teaching people. And he is Janelle Monáe's acting coach. And we talked about that on the show as well. But he has a passion to teach and to reproduce himself into others. But he was talking about how the deception of things and how you get caught up in life in things and how we think that it'll never happen to us, and the arrogance and the pride and all that will bring a fall. That the scripture is very haughty spirit, haughty spirit and pride will bring a destruction and a fall. It will bring that. And so, for God to extend grace, to give him a second chance to get his life in order and to, evolve, which is the name of his school. That's what he did. And he is growing on and doing some phenomenal things. So go back and watch his episode. I tell you, it's amazing. Thank you, Victor Love, for coming on. You are definitely have a friend in me, and we are definitely friends because we share the same birthday. So so thank you again for coming on. Your story is amazing. But not only that, I want to also share one last thing about Victor Love before I go on from him. Is his the legacy that he wants to leave behind. He has a very interesting thought about the legacy that he wants to leave. Stay tuned and listen.
Life of service is a life worth living. A life without service will be forgotten. And if one person who has looked at me and said, wow, he did that, if that one person goes on, as the Jewish faith goes, there goes the world. You know,
Indeed.
I believe that. And that my legacy will speak for itself, you know, as to what I ultimately end up meaning to different people. But it is not how you begin the race. It's how you end it. So yes, I have gone through all these different things, but I'm running a race, and I just running it for myself, and then that keeps me energized. So that probably will be what they say about me. Besides the fact that they say all kind of things like, you know, he crazy, you know, Mr. Love did this and that. I don't know. I don't know. And I want them to love, and I want them to know that they're worthy of love. Because if they can love me, they can love themselves, and they can love anybody.
Indeed, indeed. Well, you know, God bless you with the last name for a reason. So, and that's what you do. That's what you do. I can, you know, just even in this interview, I can just see how your passion and the love of what you do and the love for people and what you do just exudes through you. So your name is very, very appropriate.
It's a hard name to live by, though. Victor Love. I'm like, God, why are you reminding me every day what I got to do? But we do win through love. We do win through love. Yes, we do.
Indeed, I tell you, he was a great guest. I tell you again, Victor, thank you so much, my brother, for coming on. Great things for you coming in the future, and we're going to see more of you again. I am grateful that you came on my little old show, but I really appreciate you, and we're going to hear more about Evolve. We're going to hear more about what you're doing in the industry, how many people that you've imparted into. And again, I mean, let's judge the results. Look at Janelle Monáe. She has won award after award after award after every performance, and he was her acting coach. And so, you know, that goes to show the importance of reproducing yourself. If you are a person that is barren and that does not have the ability to reproduce, you're just as equal to the fig tree that was cursed. And you want to have reproducing capabilities. You want to be a barren person, not necessarily in producing babies, but I'm talking about reproduce yourself in others, impart wisdom, knowledge, your story, something of who you are in someone else's life, because I guarantee that's in itself is a part of leaving legacy. That's how your story lives on. That's how your history lives on. Everybody that knows about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and everybody from George Washington to everybody that has built something, their name lives on because they built and created something that lasted the test of time. For one, they have reproduced themselves into others, that their name is not forgotten, and that they have lived with integrity, you know, and some have not lived with integrity. Let's be clear, and that legacy lives on, precedes them. When you look at Hitler, for an example, his legacy precedes him. That is what he's known for. He could have done some great things in his life, but the legacy that is left of how he made a stain and a mark on the Jewish community is what has lasted the test of time. And so this is important, that when you're building and creating legacy, that you make sure that your name is not tarnished, and you make sure that what you're building lasts the test of time, and that your name rings out. And yeah, you might have some little stains on your name, you might have done some little things or what have you, but you have the ability to recover from those mistakes. You have the ability to recover from those downfalls and the things that you've done, and you can leave a legacy and say, you know what, they made a mistake, but look at what they've done after it. Look at how they recovered themselves. Look at the legacy that they built, with the empire that they built, the people that they've imparted into, the lives that they've changed. You can do the same thing. So the point of this Legacy Builder series is to inspire you to build legacy, to go after it. So again, Victor, thank you again, my brother, for coming on, being on the show. Definitely amazing guest. Again, you guys, I am so excited about what's going on with Legacy Builder series. I had to take this little moments break and not interview a guest and just come on and talk about some of our phenomenal guests that have come on. Don't worry, I know some of our guests looking like, well, where's my clip at? No worries, we're going to do another in-season recap, and we're going to talk about the other guests that has been on, as well as those that are coming on for the duration of the season. We're going to have we have the end of August all the way out through September, and then that will be the end of season 1. And so I am so excited about what's going on. I thank you guys for sharing your love, sharing your posts, sharing your comments on it. You guys make this worth doing. You make it worth doing this twice a week and putting the time and the energy and the resources into making this happen. And I hope in any way that you've been inspired. I hope in any way a light bulb moment has come on in your head to say that I can do this. If they did it, they're still doing it. And I know that I can do it. And so thank you guys again for coming on. For just a brief announcement. My next guest coming up on the 24th. Of August. We have Ryan Christopher. He is is a celebrity fashion stylist. He's going to be with us on the 24th to share his story. He has worked with some phenomenal people, from Lisa Ray to Robin Gibbons to Day 26, and the list goes on. I'm excited to have him on with us on the 24th. He's also worked with Erica Dixon. He's worked with Shay Johnson and Sammy, the music artist, Tammy Rowland. He's worked with Ronnie and Shamari DeVoe, which is Ronnie DeVoe from New Edition. He has done some phenomenal work, and so I'm excited that he's going to be on with us on the 24th. Be on the lookout. There's going to be some great things coming up for Legacy Builder series. We're not stopping. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to expand. And so just be on the lookout. Thank you guys for your love and your support, and you enjoy the rest of your night. And thank you for tuning in to the Legacy Builders series.
Thank you for viewing the Legacy Builders series. Tune in July through August, Mondays and/or Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with special guest panelists to appear. Want to be a guest or a sponsor? Send your request via email to legacybuilderstv@gmail.com. Till next time, go forth and build legacy.